Okay, bear with me. This is the Silverado. You can see that's hanging off the rocker. Everything else is taped around. If we get a little bit of overspray in through the crack, we'll just buff that off later, or I'll wipe it with a bit of reducer. You know, once the door itself is dry, just to get any overspray off, it'll wipe off of the old clear. So what we've done, sorry about the mask, I probably sound really funny, but you can see how it's not bad, but you can see some shadowing in here where it's like a little bit lighter. So that's just basically, this is one coat. So what I did is I kind of put a coat on the primer, and I went to not quite the edge of the door, but almost. It did get a little wet. So we started about here with our fan, and then we came across, feathered it across. So that's enough to make it sticky. We're going to wait about 10 minutes or so. We're going to come back in. We're going to put a second coat on that, and what we're going to do, we're going to just barely catch that edge of the door, and as we come into it, we're going to do a full medium coat across the bottom to about here, because it'll sit in this one that's still a little bit wet, and then we'll do it back and forth about 3 or 4 strokes. Now that'll give us perfect coverage. Then we're going to wait about 10 minutes, and then we'll do a little bit of a drop coat. We probably don't need it with this dark color, but then we'll widen the fan and crank it down a little bit so the droplets are a touch bigger. And we're going to try to aim for a little bit above this and a little bit further. And it's going to be kind of a fast pass. But those bigger droplets, where they got to blend, they'll be wet enough that they'll kind of flatten out. I mean, base coat likes to flatten out, so this color we should be able to get away with that really well. And then after we let it sit for about 20 minutes, half an hour, because it's winter here, it's a little cool, nothing crazy. And keep in mind, people talk about hot and cold and all this other stuff. A little bit cool, a little bit warm, all these things, it matters a little bit. With this stuff, I use a slow reducer in the summer, unless it's just a couple panels. If I do a whole car, I go to a slow reducer. But in the winter, I just run the medium, and it sort of does the same thing. But this will settle down real nice. But when we clear coat, we're going to start at the bottom. We're just going to keep coming up, and we're going to paint that whole panel right up to the tape. We're going to do 2 medium wet coats, and now some guys talk about a tack coat and a couple more coats. It depends on the clear coat you're using. The stuff we like to use, it says 2 medium wet coats. And the second coat, you really want to watch. There's no dry spots. You got to really watch and control it. So you kind of set yourself on an angle like so. You pull your gun way out in front of you. That way you can catch one of these lights reflecting in the fresh clear. And that'll let you see how it's laying down. So it doesn't matter if your gun's a little off, a little too much, a little less. If you can see how it's going on, especially on a small panel, you can simply go slower or faster. The stuff we got goes on nice. It's not expensive. It's pure reflections. But what I like about it, you can put on 2 medium wet coats. I mean, it's probably more like a full wet coat, but it goes on a little fat. But it does stay there. It doesn't run like... The only time it'll run on you is if you see something and don't fix it. Leave it alone. If you get a little dry spot, come back in 10-15 minutes, do another pass. Clear over clear, obviously, especially once one started to kick. That's where you kind of get runs and weirdness. But if you methodically just do what you got to do and run them, you get a few dries on your first coat, dry spots, you know, where it looks a little bumpy or hazy. Don't try to add more to it unless you just hit it. But once you've started here, let's say, and you work your way down and you see way back there, just leave it. Get it on your last pass. And if you get them close enough, they should all melt in nice. So it's been a few minutes there now. And another thing, You can see it's not really staying on my glove. We'll give it a couple minutes. Actually, you know what? I think we're going to be good. That's where I'm running this. Hopefully I don't get a bunch of this on my phone, but it's base coat. We should be all right. There's our second coat. You can see a little bit of bubbliness or whatever. That's okay. That's what it does. That'll settle right down into place. What I'm looking for now is all the spots where you might see through. I'm not seeing those. Now sometimes, check it out, see, we can use the light. Now with base coat it doesn't work too much, but with the clear coat you come on an angle like that and catch a light and follow it. You can see the rippleness in it. Now it can play tricks on you when you're blending. If you look up here, it looks like a little bit of a dry spot. We know that that paint is good up there anyway, because when we washed it, as soon as the wax and grease remover went on it, it was absolutely beautiful. And this is very, very clean. That's really, really important. I always wet my floor, and when it starts to dry in a couple spots, I'm good to go. A little bit of water pools there, doesn't matter. Overspray will sit on it. So this is pretty much it. We would be good to go, but I'm going to do a third coat. And like I say, I'm going to do a little bit of a drop coat. I don't think we're going to have to be honest. Yeah, we'll turn it down just a touch, like a pound or two, probably about 2.5 pounds. And the droplets will become a touch bigger, and that's what we want to do. And then we're basically going to come up, like I say, so our fan, instead of stopping there, stops just up over this curl. So I'll probably start that one from the top and brush it away and come back in, work my way down. So there's a little bit of paint, a little more, and at the end, especially with the drop coat, the droplets will probably come up into here. So it's not really like we painted the whole panel. You could. This stuff is pretty forgiving, you don't have to. Some of the weird lighter high metallics, I probably would. If this was a pearl or something real oddball, in order to fix this, we'd probably end up blending into the door, blending into the cabin box, blending into the fender. But this color, this dark blue, it's a great color for work trucks. I know with this color I can put this in and it'll be identical. Another thing that helped us out with this one, the paint I'm using is out of the gallon from last year when I painted the truck. So it's gonna match. So I don't know if you can see it on camera, it's really hard to see. There's a little bit of orange peel in it. This is where it was all funny, right? So that's all gone. Now you do see a little bit of sanding in it, but again, once the clear coat goes on, that's going to all completely disappear. And here you can see where it's a little fatter. So we come down, we'll keep catching that light. So after about 10 minutes or so, that'll flatten right out, you know, and it'll look as flat as primer. So I'll do the other coat off camera. I'm just going to pause this, I guess, and then maybe I'll come back and show the clear coat. Actually, what I'll probably do is just put this on pause. I'll come in, I'll color it, clean out my gun. I'll probably just run the clear. There's lots of how to shoot clear videos, and I'll show you what it looks like after it's clear coated. And the key to what we're doing, we got it up underneath that body line so you won't see much of an edge. Now on a high-end car, I'd put J tape in there. It's a foam tape, which will absorb the edge. Now in this case, we're not too worried. We just simply went under it a little bit. But one thing I will do, after it sits to where I can just barely touch it, but not get strings off the clear, because we're going to overshoot it a little bit, so we have a test spot right here. We're going to purposely go past about 4 inches, 5 inches. And once that's good that I can touch it and not leave, leave a print but not pull strings, it's technically ready for the next coat. But we'll put 2 coats on, and when we get to that point, I'm going to cut this plastic here, the little tool I got. You poke a hole and cut it, and then I'm going to pull that top piece of tape off. And what will happen is the clear will kind of melt up into it to some degree if we're lucky. And the rest of the stuff we'll leave on, and then later when it's dried for a couple hours, we'll pull all the plastic and crap off. Sorry about that. There might be a little bit of weirdness in the editing there. If you were curious at all, there's the base coat. Indigo blue. 9792. We took that right out of the glove box of the truck. This stuff is decent. It's a nice base coat. It's recommended to be used with certain clears or whatever. Some of them are, some of them aren't. Our supply shop and a lot of the shops that deal there use this stuff a lot. This is a 2 wet coats. You do like a medium wet coat, and then a medium wet coat again. 4 to 1. 2 to 3 flowing coats. Well, like I say, so I go medium, but I go kind of wet, especially on the last one. And if you do a medium wet coat, and then you do like a kind of a full wet coat, like it flows out and it doesn't run. I think earlier I said 2 mediums, but yeah, whatever. 10 to 15 minutes between coat. We do 15 to 20 because it's a little cool. 6 to 8 hours at 77. I'll have it in the booth overnight, leave the heat on low, and it'll be fine by morning. But I probably won't even take it out of the booth and put it outside till tomorrow, because I'll come in and work on this and I won't even worry that that's in there. But yeah, so we're pretty happy with that. I think the kick time on this is like 3 to 5 minutes or something. But I mean, like I say, once I'm done my last base coat, I'm going to have to clean my gun. So when I come out from that, I'll mix that up, leave it there. By the time I clean my gun out and I'm ready to put this on in 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, we'll wait for that base to really, really settle nice. And then we'll go in with this. It's definitely well kicked at that point. If you wait about 15, 20 minutes, usually you're good, but it depends on the product, right? So some of them have a longer kick time. I can only tell you about this right at the moment. I've done the Omni and the Matrix, and everything you use is different, so keep that in mind. But if you got a TDS sheet or you got this, just do what that says. I don't think this has the kick written on it, but I think it's 3 to 5 minutes. Like, it's not, as long as it's mixed really thoroughly, which it does say, this might even, start to kick pretty much right away. Excuse me. But, sorry about that. My booth is 14 by 10. So it's 14 on the inside, wide, and it's 10 minus a 2 by 4 on the inside. My doors open up pretty much 10 by 10. I used to do a lot of trucks, which is why it's that way. That door is 10 by 10, so if it can come in that door, makes sense for it to come in this door. And it's basically just a frame. We've got our filters here. We're going to redesign these doors next time around. We're going to do 8 filters instead of 6, just to get a little bit more even flow. we got squared barrel bolts up there. And just to keep the door from twisting in, I can pull this. I'm not too worried about it. Not too much comes in there. You see foam down below the door. Now all our plastics sweep on the floor, so when you turn the fan on, they kind of suck down. Like, you know, it's not really flowing in the breeze or nothing. Now that the air is steady, fan's on, it gets sucked out here. You can buy a used metal booth in Ontario usually for, you know, $2,000-$3,000. They're out there. The reason I have this set up, if you've seen the channel before, you probably know, but if you're new to the channel, you won't know this. You can see how we did all these, it's basically 4 feet by 10 feet, these frames. If you look at this one, there's nothing in between. You can see how there's nothing up there. This one is basically just a leg. So these two panels will collapse. Then I got another solid one, and then this one will collapse. So I have 24 feet of booth. I didn't even turn my lights on the opposite side, so we're just working here. I got some stuff at the hardware store for the, it's like a hose thing, so I can hang my air hose there. I might get rid of that, I never really use it. But I did put a place to hang a gun over there, and also one over here. So if I'm in and out of the door, I leave it here. But when I test a pattern, I'm usually back in that corner, and I used to leave it there. So if I had to, I put one on each side. So this is pretty basic. This opens and closes. And then this one here is 40 something inches, and it folds into that one, which is 48. And those two open up. So you fold one and then the other one. It's pretty simple. You put this on just in case you have the filters where you need the grate. These ones have a metal wire in them. But this is nice. You can push it in, not worry about it coming in. These are the real thick paint pockets. These filters here, that's what they're called. They come in 20 by 20. And I always cut 3 of them in half and run them here. So our box is 10 inches, you know, by 40 by however long that is. And the cool thing with these is you get 30 in a box, and I can put 15 in. And then once this starts getting a little filled up, we can take them out, put the other half a box in. We're good for a few more months. I can order a new box. It's a couple $100 for a box of these, so use them, right? Get the good ones. And then I've got a tunnel in behind it that goes out. Nothing's attached to the building. We got a box outside with a big fan and our stack. So that works pretty good. We used to do that open face booth thing, you know, but then there's dust and cutting and buffing. The nice thing with the booth, this truck and a few other vehicles, like, I mean, whatever I've painted in the booth, you get the odd spot, but you don't get a whole bunch. I don't cut and buff most of my stuff. And I mean, this is not beautiful, right? It's plastic and some wood. I think when I first built it, it cost about $1,000. But it does the job, and it's 24 feet long, so it'll do most things that I want to do. If anything, it's a little tall. What I like about that is if you got to paint a roof, even on like a jacked up lifted truck, we did one last year, I had 2 6-foot ladders on each side. And if you were in like an 8-foot booth, you can't really paint the roof on a modern pickup truck, let alone a jacked up truck. So we can get away with this. Some of the smaller vans that the bus companies use for school buses, the little ones do fit in here. I do a little bit of work for some of those guys. Let's have a look at how this is flashing off. Man, that's perfect. I'm right at about 25. Sorry about how I almost dropped the phone there. See, I'm about 2 pounds lower. Just blowing the dust off. And you can really see the droplets. They're still tiny, but you can see how they're a little bigger. And they say that that helps it kind of blend in. With a dark color, it don't really matter. But that's basically it. I'm gonna put a little more right down in here. And that's it. 1 coat, 2 coats, and then basically a little bit of a drop coat. And I mean, this comes down like so and rounds under. So if this ain't 100% perfect, we're not too worried. This is just how we're doing this on this particular truck. Different paints, different guns, pretty much different everything. You're gonna have to adjust for all those differences. Once this is settled down, I'm gonna call it good to go. We're gonna mix up some clear coat. I'll be back soon. We're gonna clear coat it out. I'm gonna concentrate on the clear coat, you know, because we're gonna do a medium wet and then like a nice full wet coat. I'm probably not gonna film that, but I will come back and show you what it looks like when it's done. You can see there's a little bit of fine texture in it. I think you can catch that. It's really hard to catch that on camera, but you can definitely see it. It's like a teeny tiny orange peel. So that's kind of your wet but medium coat. Now that won't run, that won't move. We shot it on pretty fast. Started at the bottom and I did about a 70% overlap. So I caught just, basically I painted the paper with clear coat and caught a little bit of the edge. And then I went about a half and half. Then I kept going about 70% up and I moved a little quick. So on the first pass you don't necessarily get it, but on the second pass you do. Now if you come up here, you can see it's starting to settle down. You can see how nice that's kind of looking, but it's also a little hazy, right? But you can see that it's doing its thing. Then as I come down, there's a little bit of peel there. Now, people think peel, it could be the gun, could be a lot of things, but in this case, it's almost like there's not quite enough material for it to level out. But you want to get it as close to the way it'll look as possible, but you don't want to go over. But you can see this is going to be clear, but you can, if you catch that light, you can see what I mean. Looks a little drier there than back here, but it's not bad. It's pretty good. Now once this is to where I can touch it down here and it'll come off like strings of glue, that's no good. But once I can touch it and it's tacky, but it won't come off, it won't leave nothing on my finger. It sort of works with the glove. It's better with your skin, but you know what? It's all poison, so wear the glove, right? But the second coat, we can go just a touch slower, do the exact same thing, because we just practiced what we're going to do. Start at the bottom, come up, right? And that's going to look spectacular. And you can already see back here, our scratch repair job is gone. You would be looking at it right in that vicinity there. There's pretty much nothing to see down there, so that's good. That's what we want. But the second coat, when it goes onto this coat, we'll go just like a touch heavier, and this coat will be still wet enough that the other coat will stick to it. It won't want to run, and instead of printing that roughness through, they'll kind of melt together. So put enough in. The last coat you do with this clear coat, you want it to look exactly like it's going to finish out. They're not all like that. Some of them are. I know that Omni product, the clear is a little weird. Hard to get that one kind of flat. You really got to crank up the gun and atomize the hell out of it, because it'll go bumpy, and some of them smooth out, some of them don't. But this one, I find the closer you get it, it will smooth out a little bit. So get it as close as you can, almost glass, and it should go down to even better glass. But again, there's no reason a week, 2 weeks from now you can't cut and buff this. You can probably do it sooner. If I got no runs and it looks pretty and it's shiny, you know, from 5-6 feet away, if it looks amazing, I just walk away. Again, this is a work truck. This is not a show car. This is never going to see no Barrett Jackson, right? So we're very happy with what we're looking at now. That second coat is going to make it just bang. It's going to be sweet. All right. Let's see what we got. We're happy with that. I'm going to try to catch. It has like a little bit of like an OEM peel in it, but it's very faint. And that will flatten out a little bit with this stuff. So like I say, if you're looking for something that's it don't have to be perfect, or you just want an OEM finish, I'm trying to catch it. You can see there's that wee bit of texture in it, but it's very faint. And basically this is going to become like super shiny. It's going to flatten out a touch, and I'm pretty happy with that. You know what I mean? Like, hey, what repair? But look, if I put my feet down here, you got pretty good reflection. Man, that's a nice color. It's so dark, but you can see how where the light hits it, it gets really bright. I forgot how nice these trucks were back in the early 2000s with this color on them, but I guess what happens over time, the paint kind of goes dull, because you get oxidization on the clear coat. You know, and these trucks are 20, 23, well this truck's 23, 24 years old, so it is what it is. But yeah, we're happy with that. The scratch is gone, the door's nice, and give me 2 seconds. So I just basically went off camera here real quick because I wanted to get this tape off. So what I did is I pulled the tape off each edge, yanked the plastic off that way. That one I folded it over and stuck the tape right on. You can't reuse this plastic, but it's cheap by the box, so it don't matter. But there's your color. As you can see going into the fender, the color's still the same. Well, it should be because we didn't paint up here that much. Come back here. There's a little bit of tape mark on there, but we'll wipe that off after everything's dry because it's still pretty sticky. I don't want to touch it. But that's really, really good. And I'll open the door and I'll take a bit of gun cleaner and I'll just give that a wipe, and that primer will come right off that old clear coat. You can see way up in there, see a couple little marks. That's our tape line. Let's see if I can catch that. It's very faint, but that, well look, it's gone. So there you go. So that's a pretty good way to hide it if you have an opportunity to do so. You could do a blend with the clear. I don't like doing that. Most of the time I'll re-clear a whole door. I just find it quicker and easier. Costs a little more material, but realistically it's just what I know how to do, and I'm good at it that way. It kind of ensures that I have the whole panel in a way that it won't come undone or fail down the road. You can see how much dirt actually stayed there. Luckily there's enough static now, nothing will move. But that's dry enough. Should anything stick to it now, we can take the polisher, and I might do that. We don't really have to, but sometimes like I won't cut and buff it. I'll just put a little bit of polish on the pad and just kind of go over it a little bit. Just makes it really, really nice in case anything should stick on it. But let's get up close and personal. Check it out, right? So you can see me in the door. It's pretty clear. I'm pretty happy with that. It's basically as good as the rest of the truck. Now if we follow that light, you can see when I move it, there's a little bit of peel in it. And there's less peel in that than there is on that cab corner. And when you see this truck in person, this truck is pretty nice. It looks like an OEM paint job. So we're good. We're happy. What scratch? Thanks for watching. Hope you got something out of it. Cheers.